Such a tease that motorcycle is. That red color tells you it's a fast Italian steed. That upright riding posture tells you that it is going to be more comfortable than the most reddest super sport that you've ever dreamed of. I'm not sure if those words are right. And it looks like nothing else from any other manufacturer, which means that no one's ever going to mistake this motorcycle for anything else apart from maybe its own elder sibling. And if you've just wandered onto this story without reading the title, well, this is the new Ducati Multistrada 950S. Speaking of wandering, the Multistrada is not an out-and-out adventure motorcycle that is meant to wander the wild outdoors, though it is very capable of doing all of that if you have the muscle and the grit to make it do all of that. But at its heart, the Multistrada would rather gobble up tarmac as if it were an endless string of spaghetti. Despite its 19-inch front wheel, the Pirelli Scorpion Trail 2 tires and the long travel suspension, it would rather prance happily to and on a racetrack than explore a mountain trail. And to be fair, the Multistrada doesn't make any claims of being an off-roader. Of course, there's the enduro riding mode, which will give you a better low-end response, or it will ease the brakes and the traction control system for going off the beaten path, like this. But then again, this is not an out-and-out off-roader either. If you look at the seat, it is wide and comfortable for long-distance touring, not for giving you comfort or a good posture on the trails. When you look at the tank, the way the recesses are, the way the sculpting is, it is to give you that sporty riding posture, not for standing up and riding. And if you look at the amount of fairing on it, it's made to cut through wind and not through bushes. Of course, you can spec this motorcycle with wire spoke wheels and take it off the road if you really want to. Or you could just sign up for the Multistrada Enduro if you want that sort of a thing. But then again, this one is more like a super bike that is made for the road with more relaxed riding ergos. Since we are on the topic of riding modes, the new line of 950s get a Bosch 6-axis IMU, which measures your lean angle amongst other things to quickly fine-tune the traction control and the ABS. It also gives the bike cornering lamps, self-cancelling indicators, and more importantly, a hill hold function. It's a 230 kilo motorcycle after all. The electronics work discreetly in typical Ducati fashion, again teasing you to lean further, push harder, and maybe even pull away from your super sport buddies when you're riding around winding roads. Then there's the quick shifter, which is occasionally clunky on the downshifts but usually smooth, though the auto blipper can get angry at times. You can choose to use the clutch the old school way too, and the new hydraulic system reduces the effort at the clutch lever by a fair margin. The final bit of silicone trickery hides behind the big bodywork, the Skyhook semi-active suspension. I think it is the best of its kind, the best in this particular segment, not just in terms of its spec, but also in terms of the way it performs. The damping automatically adjusts in the background and the ride is supple even on harsh road conditions. Honestly, the systems from Triumph and BMW just don't match up. The suspension can also be firmed up for riding around the twisties, and you can feel the changes in the damping. Similarly, the rear can be electronically adjusted for preload using presets for passenger and the luggage. And though its movement is noisy, it works flawlessly. The yellow monoshock offers a visual contrast, and all the canisters and cables are neatly tucked away, again highlighting Ducati's premium workmanship. The other riding modes include urban, touring and sport, which as you would expect, make the powertrain responses sharper, reduce electronic intervention and stiffen up the chassis as you ascend through these modes. You can switch these modes on the fly and the changes seem immediate just like any new age Ducati. You can also fine-tune the settings within each riding mode or create your own riding mode if you so wish. The TFT instrumentation is generally easy to read and even has a message for locking the bike using the keyless function of the chunky fob. But the menus can get a bit confusing and the fonts can seem a bit smallish for a motorcycle. But it's only a matter of time before you get used to the interface. If this is your first time riding an L-twin engine, you will notice that there are quite a bit of judders and vibrations up until about 3000 RPM, enough for you to even see them in the instrumentation. The entire instrumentation shakes. But beyond that, you start getting this strong pull from the engine. It starts from about 4000 RPM and will carry on all the way up to about 7,500 RPM.
Now the red line, my GoPro tells me it's at about 8,500 RPM, and where it hits the limiter might change on which gear you are in. But that power, that pull, it's all very strong right from the word go, and that is what you will love about this engine. Like I said, it's like a superbike or a super sport for the road with relaxed ergos, but the performance, it is right up there. The kind of acceleration that you get, the kind of mid-range acceleration that you get, pulling overtakes, riding fast across long highways or even sweeping turns and maybe even tight corners, all of that this engine complements very nicely.
The typically hollow note of the L-twin is there too, but more silent than before. Accelerate hard in every gear and you find yourself hitting 100 km an hour in around 4 seconds, and you will soon pass the 200 km an hour mark without much effort. If you really fancy something quicker, the new Multistrada V4 is just around the corner. Back to the 950S, it doesn't heat up too much, but the frame still sits closer to the rider's thighs and is sure to cook them well in prolonged bumper-to-bumper jams. But this frame is also responsible for making the Multistrada extremely agile and sharp. Add to it the electronics and the grip from the tires despite their trail rating, and you have a machine that is fast, agile and sharp, and one that doesn't feel 230 kilos at all. Astonishingly, the handling manners of the Multistrada aren't hampered much even with a pillion and their luggage, which highlights just how good the suspension is. My only grudge for highway use is the noisy windscreen, and even with a good set of earplugs, I couldn't get rid of the whistling sounds on a cross or a sport helmet. To sum it up, the Multistrada 950S is an explosive package, and since Ducati only has the S on sale at the moment, it comes at quite a price. Sure, the Tiger 900 GT has a better scope with its off-roading capabilities and hardware, and the BMW F900 XR feels a tad bit sportier in its riding ergonomics, but these competitors don't match up to the overall tarmac experience that the Multistrada 950 has to offer. Superior electronics and the suspension put it in a different league altogether, and if you have the means to get one, I would certainly recommend it over the aforementioned bikes if a fast road tourer is what you're seeking.